Welcome to the 90-day Breakaway Agent Accelerator Tracker. You can use this with our challenge or you can use this on your own. I just want to give you a little bit of a tour of what you'll find. So the first thing you'll see is the main tracking page, and it tracks 12 weeks. This is the second thing that you want to do when you get here. But because this is the thing you'll be updating every single week, it is on the first tab. So it's nice and handy for you. The first thing you want to do, though, is go over to your step one, which are the goals. Anything that's in yellow, whenever the letters are blue, those are the things that you can update. And I try to highlight them and make it so that you can see them. So you can see over here, this 10% of calls equal appointments. If you're finding that you're getting more calls than that, you can update that. This is, you can say starting sphere number from the tracking tab that's already set. So when we go over to the tracking tab, you can update that. So don't update it on this page. Again, this next part with the goals. It says how many sales a month do you want? That's also from the tracking tab. So we'll do that here in a minute. What you do want to update first is how many new contacts you want per week. So this isn't how many calls you're going to make. This is how many people do you want to add to your sphere of influence. So throughout this whole program, you'll see me use the word sphere of influence or contact list or database. They all mean the people that you would be willing to call if their phone number came in front of you that week. So below are some assumptions that we make. You probably won't need to change these. If you think that they're way off, you can go ahead and change them. How many weeks per year do you make the calls? So if you know you take a couple weeks off or you want to give yourself a couple weeks here and there, then you can change that, but we set it at 50. How many deals out of every 4 turn into a listing or contract? So every time that you sign up an active buyer or write up a listing, then we're assuming that 3 of every 4 turn into a closed deal. The next part is the number of all the calls that are follow-up. So as you're setting down to your desk, we're assuming a lot of them are going to be new contacts, new leads, and then the rest of them are follow-up calls. So you're taking your database and then you're calling and you're making these follow-up calls, or let's say you've got a buyer and you just follow up with them every week. So what percentage of your total calls are we assuming that are follow-up? And here we have 25, so that 25%. So that means we're assuming that most of your calls each day are to new prospects, which that's new lifeblood into your business. So you really want to push yourself on that. Once you're done with this tab, then you go to the tracking tab. Up here at the top, you can see how many sales do you want every month, and then add that in. How many days a week do you want to make your calls? I suggest that you do 5 to 7 because otherwise you're going to have a lot of phone calls to make. And then this new contacts each week from your goals. So on the goals tab, remember you said how many new contacts you want to add to your database. And then how many appointments does it take to get a listing or a motivated buyer, meaning a buyer who's ready to buy in the next month or as soon as possible. And if you know that you sit down in front of somebody and let's say you're like, no way, I only need 2 appointments to get 1 client, then, change that number. That's the number that really varies from agent to agent. So if you're really experienced, you've got that locked in, go ahead and change that number. Otherwise, I suggest you being very conservative and assume it's going to take more appointments than you think so that you can make sure and hit those goals. The other thing that you want to do is the next tab is your sphere growth worksheet. Each week I found that most of the time we spend on how to grow your sphere. Some agents love to, just hire a leads company, and that's fine. A lot of agents are like, I don't like wasting my time on bad leads, and I'm one of those agents. So we like to be really targeted about who we contact, but I also know that people make a lot of money off of leads. So if you're paying Zillow or Realtor.com or something like that, or even a marketing company that sends you leads, that's fine. But whatever that is, go ahead and put the overall strategy. I suggest you do this every week. So once a week, you just sit down. In fact, we're going to talk about time blocking here in a minute, but just write down your overall strategy, what your to-do items are this week, the details of that, the deadline, and then any updates if you want to come back later and say how it went so that you're able to remember how each of those tactics happen. I found over the years that agents a lot of times will be like, oh yeah, I tried that and it did work or it didn't work. But if we have all these details and then later we have an update, like this is how many leads I got, whatever is you're seeing happen out of that campaign, if you update it, you can come back later and see, someone's going to talk you into it again. And then you're going to be like, now what happened last time? And you're going to be really happy to come back to this sphere growth worksheet. The nice thing is as you are working on them, you can say high, medium, low. So like, let's say I'm like, hey, I want to start a podcast. Oops. Start a podcast. And I said, well, this is a medium. I mean, it's actually high on my list. It's going to highlight them. So if you write you can just brainstorm and just write everything you could possibly think of. And then you can just say it's high, medium, or low. And then low, it's just going to be white. And then high, obviously it's going to be highlighted so that those are the first things you're working on, because we want to keep the main thing. Once it's complete, you can click complete and then it's grayed out. So it's going to help you stay really organized really quickly and very easily. The next is time blocking. And these are the things that I found as we do these weekly challenges that come up the most. One is to call the prospects to add them to the database. So when people are like, well, I kind of know these people, and I need to, reach out to them and see, do I really want to put them in to, upgrade them to somebody I follow up with all the time? Or are they just like, no way, I don't want to work with them for whatever reason? Those are the people that you want to be calling. So just block in. There are 2 spots. So you want to say, make most calls today. And then, you can say block, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. So just kind of use this as an overall worksheet to get an idea. So as you're, opening up your Google Calendar each week, this is kind of your Bible of time blocking. But, call the next thing on the list is call contacts in the database, call active customers, ask for testimonials and referrals, and work on growth strategy. So a lot of these things in our challenge, we're not focusing on all of this because a lot of times your broker will have education and systems that you're using. And a lot of times even brokerages have coaching within their system. So if that's the case, this does not replace that. This actually augments it. So it makes that work better. It really kind of holds your feet to the fire. And, we're having accountability and just talking through it. If there's something that keeps running up, that you keep running into, we're able to just kind of troubleshoot it and figure out how to get you past that roadblock. So one of them, obviously, over and over and over again. I mean, how many times have you heard an agent talk about time blocking? I mean, we all run into it. So this is just something to, keep notes on, change it as you need to. It's a living and breathing thing, because as you start getting busier, it's just going to change. So I don't care if you sell 100 million in real estate every year. If you go through the system and let's say you're a certified partner and you're like going through it and your team's going through the program, and you're a certified partner, you're going to have more team members. So this time blocking is going to look different. If you're a brand new agent, this time blocking, a lot of it's just going to be all about building your sphere, because you're not going to be able to make the number of calls off of the follow-up that you're going to need in order to hit your real estate goals unless you're adding to your sphere. So how this is going to look for one agent to another, it's just going to change. And then as we meet each week, we actually go through conversions and things like that, just to see, what do you need to spend more time on? If we're meeting and it's like, hey, I'm not getting enough, I'm not getting enough appointments, then we'll be like, okay, so how can you, get more appointments? So you might need to add time to that, and you might need to take away from your sphere. Maybe your sphere is huge. So that's the time blocking portion. Now back to this tracking tab. After you've entered this top section in, I want you to also put in how many are in your total sphere. Remember, we looked at the goals section and it was already filled out, and it's because this is where you fill it in. And then as you do that each week, I want you to time block. I want you to time block a time that you're updating this sheet. And I would really, really love it if it was 1 hour prior to our meeting. I don't want you to take any calls. I don't want you to take any appointments. I want you to absolutely block it out like it's a very important meeting. We only meet for an hour. So if you come in and you're like, you've got this tight, it's filled out, you know it, you understand it, you can look things up before we even get on our call, you're going to ask better questions. So you have two choices. You can either just skip that part and just come straight to the call, and you're just going to be scrambling and looking. So the whole call, that's all you're thinking about is like adding the numbers. But if you block it, like our call actually starts an hour earlier, but you're solo flying, updating this worksheet, maybe coming up with some strategies to build your sphere, maybe coming up with some strategies to make your follow-up calls, then you can use that hour that we spend together as a group and be asking those questions like, this is what I'm doing, this is what's working, this was not working, instead of going, oh shoot, I have to take this time to add my numbers. So I hope these tips are helpful for you. I'm really excited for us to grow together, and let me know if you have any questions.